Hey, this is Evan with Simple Sales Central Florida, back again for our monthly Q&A for the month of July. Um, just wanted to take a second to introduce the company. So we um, buy distressed residential properties throughout Central Florida, including Tampa Bay to Orlando to the Space Coast, anywhere as far north as Ocala, even up to Gainesville. um, and south, as far south as Poinciana or even further south. Um, what we focus on are distressed properties that have some form of issue, typically a title issue, probate, um, liens, judgments, code violations, things of that nature. Um, and we work to bring transparency and accountability to distressed home sales. So we take a difficult situation and really work hard to try to make it uh, a stress-free situation for the client. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Um, First question. I just found out my home needs to go through probate. When can I sell it? So in the probate process, um, you really uh, there's various steps that you have to go through. So ultimately, when the judge tells you you can sell it, you can, but you have to go ahead and file for probate and go through those steps. And that can take anywhere from 30, 60, 90 days, depending. Um, so at the point in which the judge says, okay, everything's clear, you can sell this property, it'll be essentially be a piece of paper that says that you know um, whoever the new heirs are, the owners of this property, and they have the right to sell it, essentially. So um, yeah, so you should have um, an attorney that's guiding you through the process. Don't try to do it on your own. I guess it's maybe possible, but it's extremely difficult for someone that's not in that business. So let's go to the next question. Can I sell a house if it's not up to code? So in those types of situations, selling a property that isn't up to code would typically, you'd only be able to do that for a cash buyer, someone that's going to come in and buy for cash, typically an investor. If the property isn't up to code, you're not going to be able to get a mortgage through a bank. So your standard retail type investor, or sorry, type home buyer, wouldn't be a buyer in that situation until it was brought up to code. So at that point, um, you know, you could go ahead and bring it up to code yourself. Um, that's always an option. You just have to get a contractor to figure out what the issues are and bring it up to code. But if that's not something you're wanting to do, then you would ultimately sell it to an investor that will buy it for cash without a mortgage. Um, but it's definitely possible. We buy properties all the time that have code issues, various types of code issues, bad electrical, bad roof, bad plumbing, anything like that. We've bought, and other investors will buy as well. So next question, what are distressed homes? So we define distressed homes as a property that has some form of an issue. It can be title issue, like I mentioned, probate, code violation, liens, judgments. It can be a foreclosure. That's commonly how people describe distress, is that it's in foreclosure. We don't necessarily handle a ton of foreclosures, um, but that's commonly a way to describe a foreclosure property. And then also just property with excessive repairs. If there needs to be a bunch of repairs done, it can be defined as distressed. So essentially, so a distressed property doesn't have to always appear distressed. It could be, a property that has a bunch of liens on it. That the house is fine, maybe a beautiful house, but maybe has tons of uh, liens on it, and in that scenario, we would define that as a distressed property. Okay, let's go on to the next question. What kinds of companies buy distressed properties? So there are a lot of companies out there that will buy a distressed property in the sense of that it needs excessive repairs. So if it just needs like a full rehab on the property, then there's a lot of companies that will buy it. There's a very big market out there. If it's distressed in the sense of there's some tough liens or judgments or things of that nature, then there aren't that many, depending on what type of lien and stuff that it is, but there aren't nearly as many. Like the reason for that is because the liens may present a lot of risk for the buyer of the property. So let's say you have $100,000 in liens. Let's say the house is worth $100,000, and you buy it for, let's say, $50,000. So you're already underwater on the property if you can't negotiate those liens down, and that's the whole risk that you end up taking. We commonly take that type of risk. If we think it's something we can pull off over time, we'll do it, and a lot of other companies won't. So, so there's a few in the sense of a title issue, but there are a lot of buyers in the sense of just like a property that needs to be rehabbed. Next question. Is it possible to sell a home with a lien? Yeah, I kind of just hit on that. So it is possible to sell a house with a lien. It really just depends. I mean, if the lien is small and not complicated, it will, probably be solved at closing. It would probably be paid off at closing. But for liens that are complicated and expensive, it's going to be hard to sell the house. Simple Sale Central Florida will buy it, but a lot of companies won't. You're very limited on buyers just because of the risk that can come with buying those properties. But it is possible. It's just there are less buyers. So to clearly answer the question, yes, it is possible. It's just there's a limited buyer pool that's going to take the risk on the lien, assuming that the lien is complicated. If it's a simple lien, then probably shouldn't be a big deal. For most buyers, what you run into there is they just don't. They may not actually understand how to solve some of the issues, and it can become very complicated to make it to closing because the buyer doesn't know how to understand it. Their title company doesn't understand liens very well. And so you can kind of get strung along for a long period of time while you're waiting for the buyer and the title company to try to figure out the lien situation. So I would say you'd want to work with someone that's experienced and focused and really specializes in those types of things. can I sell my house before it's foreclosed? Yes, of course. People, you can really sell it up to like the day before um, closing. Actually, um, we've I don't think we've ever bought one just before closing, but it is possible. Um, in those scenarios, though, you got to have someone that's buying it for cash. Um, that knows what they're doing and understands the timeline associated. Um, just someone that's organized, and they understand when the foreclosure date is, and they have to stay focused on getting it done before that day, or yeah, you're gonna end up getting foreclosed on. So you can definitely do it. Just make sure that you're working with someone that's credible and is going to be able to get it done. Because if you work with someone that's not very focused on what's going on, doesn't understand the situation that well, then you could get into some trouble. Okay, next question. Is it possible to sell my home in probate in Florida? Yes, it is. So what people sometimes don't understand is you can go under contract to sell the property before the probate's over. So we've had properties under contract, months before the probate was finished, and then as soon as the judge gave the new heirs permission uh, to sell and own the property and sell it, um, then we would close on the property. So you can go ahead. You don't have to wait until the point in which the judge says that you own the property. You can actually sell it before then, in the sense of you can have a buyer waiting, and as soon as you get the probate approved, then you can sell and um, move on. So to answer the question, it is definitely possible. Mm-hmm. Next question. So I have an IRS lien, tax lien on my home. Can you help me? Yes, of course. We actually this week just finished helping out a couple with their IRS tax lien situation, and I think everyone was reasonably happy with the result, as much as you can be. Um, in that situation, they were able to walk away and were forgiven some of their tax liens. So fortunately, um, they were able to move on, and they were in a situation where they were kind of hindered by it. And through some hard work by a trusted attorney um, and the sellers, we were able to get through it and have a successful closing and allow them to move on unburdened by those tax liens. So we definitely can help you do that. We are experiencing that and shouldn't have any issues helping you out with your situation. And would love to hear about what's going on. Next question. What are the benefits of working with a cash home buyer? Kind of like what we've talked about over the last few minutes here is they can buy properties that have code issues. They can buy properties with title issues. They can buy properties quickly. So working with those cash buyers, it you you know obviously a cash buyer isn't going to be able to give as much as a retail buyer because the retail buyer is mortgaging the property, but the cash buyer is going to be able to provide you with the ability to sell a property that wouldn't be able to be sold to a retail buyer. Also, convenience and speed; they'll be able to purchase it quickly. Next question. I have a home in Winter Park that I need to sell fast. Can you help? Yes, of course. We, buy properties in Winter Park, Orlando, Maitland, Altamont Springs, anywhere around that area. Very interested in purchasing properties, and we can do it very quickly within a week or two if needed. Whatever your situation may be, we can try to expedite any process, any lien, probate, whatever. I feel that we are about as good as anybody in terms of handling legal issues, probates and code violations and liens and title issues and things of that nature. We're about as experienced and specialized as anyone else in that space, and we are very confident that we can handle your situation as well. Okay. So, any other questions? I don't see anything in the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. As always, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate people that watch this, and hopefully, some of these questions help you get answers to your whatever the situation is that you're going through. We buy properties, distressed properties from Tampa Bay down to Bradenton, to Orlando, to the Space Coast, Brevard County. We buy, distressed properties in all those locations, and are very experienced in buying them in those locations. And we can definitely help you out with your situation. Just give us a call, or you can go through our website and fill out your information, and we will be able to assist you. So feel free to reach out anytime. All right, guys. Thank you.